Two more things. Putin ghosted everybody at these peace talks last week. As President Trump phones him today to try to figure out an end to the Ukraine war, does he think that Putin is the good guy or the bad guy?
I'll let the president speak on that conversation later. He's made his feelings about both sides of this war quite clear throughout it. He wants to see it end.
Carolyn Levitt is not very good at her job, and she's not very happy when that is pointed out by any reporter in the briefing room, no matter what outlet they're from. And we saw a couple different reporters, even those from the Fox propaganda outlet, call out Carolyn Levitt for several of Donald Trump's scandals today, and that resulted in a complete meltdown. Levitt turning on the entirety of the press pool, attacking them all in a freakout that we're going to get into. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, there was a lot to unpack in this pretty bad press conference today, but it started with one of the most disgusting lines, which I felt was Carolyn Levitt mocking Joe Biden after his recent cancer diagnosis. It was a gross start. Just take a look.
Follow up on former President Biden. White House doctors may have missed the early stages of his prostate cancer. So, is President Trump worried about the quality of care that presidents get here?
Not as far as President Trump is concerned. The White House physician we have here is phenomenal, and the team of physicians that take care of the president, particularly at Walter Reed Medical Center, are great. The president had his physical recently, as you know. He had perfect results. He's in very good shape. I think those of you who traveled to the Middle East with us last week can attest to the president's endurance. And by the way, I will add, we returned home from a very long and tiring trip last week, and on Saturday, where was the president? In the Oval Office, working all day. He doesn't stop, he doesn't quit, he's in great health, and he trusts his physicians.
Two more things.
Now I'm sure many people would want to give a charitable reading to Carolyn Levitt's response, but her insistence that Donald Trump is in perfect health and he's all fine, and it's that White House that wasn't up to snuff, and everything is perfect here. I don't know. I don't know if it's her condescending tone. I don't know if it's just that she's Carolyn Levitt, but I feel like it's her trying to rub salt in the wound that a former president has been diagnosed with cancer. And the fact that everyone was applauding Donald Trump last night for a Truth Social post he didn't even write, wishing President Biden well, just shows how low the bar is for Donald Trump. And yes, we are all wishing Joe Biden a speedy recovery, but to pretend like Donald Trump gets some points for saying that, it's just sad. It's a complete lie. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about anyone's medical situation, and that's why Carolyn Levitt's lie right here.
I agree with Republicans behind this bill that Medicaid work requirements should be implemented as soon as 2026.
So the president wants to preserve and protect Medicaid for Americans who this program was intended for, the most vulnerable in our society: pregnant women, low-income families, seniors, those who truly need these benefits. And it should be going to people who physically cannot work. We want to see able-bodied Americans at least working 20 hours per week, whether that's part-time or full-time, whether that's even looking for work or volunteering for 20 hours a week if they are receiving Medicaid. These are common sense provisions. These are common sense changes that were actually introduced by former Democrat President Clinton. They've been supported by every Democrat president since, including the previous president, Joe Biden. But again, these are common sense reforms to ensure that those that this program was intended for receive those.
They are not trying to preserve Medicaid. We saw in a recent interview on Fox a Republican member of Congress say, yes, these Medicaid cuts that we're introducing. And then they went, oh, I mean, these Medicaid changes, these Medicaid improvements, even they know their cuts. This isn't about work. This isn't about, improving the program. They don't care. They've never cared. They are protecting billionaires and they are protecting Donald Trump's buddies. That is ultimately what everything's about. And we saw that when Carolyn Levitt was asked about Vladimir Putin, Donald Trump's best little buddy right here.
Two more things. Putin ghosted everybody at these peace talks last week. As President Trump phones him today to try to figure out an end to the Ukraine war, does he think that Putin is the good guy or the bad guy?
I'll let the president speak on that conversation later. He's made his feelings about both sides of this war quite clear throughout it. He wants to see it end.
Still, the fact that they are unable to answer this question of who is our ally and who is our enemy when Ukraine is clearly our ally. I don't even know how much more I can reiterate that this is not only scary, but an embarrassment to our nation. I am so sick and tired of having to hear Carolyn Levitt blow off questions because she doesn't want to say anything bad about people who are not our allies. And now that is expanded to Donald Trump's new favorite group, anyone willing to give him a jumbo jet. And that is what Carolyn Levitt attacked the press for, that truthful reporting about Donald Trump's new bribe. Take a look at how angry she was.
On the gift plane from Qatar, three things. Is there a timeline for the U.S. receiving that plane? Do you know how long it will take to retrofit the plane to presidential standards? And thirdly, has the intelligence community, security folks, have they weighed in on whether that plane can actually be secured to presidential standards?
I'm glad you brought up this question because I was watching the American press spew a lot of misinformation about the plane donation last week when we were abroad. Let's be very clear. The government of Qatar, the Qatari family, has offered to donate this plane to the United States Air Force, where that donation will be accepted according to all legal and ethical obligations. It will be retrofitted to the highest of standards by the Department of Defense and the United States Air Force. This plane is not a personal donation or a gift to the President of the United States. And everyone who wrote that last week should go and correct their stories because this is a donation to our country and to the United States Air Force. As for a timeline, because it is the United States Air Force that is accepting the plane, I would defer you to them for specifics because the President, frankly, has nothing to do with it. It's the Air Force's project to take on.
The plane is a gift. He gets it for his presidential library after it's decommissioned. But what is under the surface of decommission isn't that the plane is, brand spanking new. It's actually a couple of years old. And so the plane will probably be decommissioned relatively quickly, especially because the two orders for new Air Force Ones from Boeing, those are already still in. Donald Trump is acting like this is something that's going to save taxpayers money in the long term. Not only is this a gift to Donald Trump, which inevitably just gets handed over to him after his presidency, that's the truth. Not the lie Carolyn Levitt's trying to spin. They give him the plane. They also spend about $1 billion making it better for him before they give him the plane. And then the plane can be paid for by his presidential library, which is about to be a corruption scheme in its own. And then we are still buying 2 new planes. No money is saved. This is a bribe. You cannot try to twist this any other way. It is the absolute truth. And of course, that's something Carolyn Levitt is not a fan of, especially when it's coming from CEOs warning about Donald Trump's tariffs, as we saw when she responded to Walmart right here.
Children. Ouija.
Thank you, Caroline. President Trump and his top economic aides have repeatedly said that Americans will not pay the cost of tariffs. In fact, last week, Lutnick said people have to drop the, quote, silly arguments that consumers would pay the cost. But over the weekend, as you know, the president posted that Walmart should eat the tariffs and not charge the value customer anything. I'll be watching, and so will your customers. So does he acknowledge that if companies don't absorb the full cost, Americans will have to pay?
Well, first of all, the CEO of Walmart made those comments about the tariffs on an earnings call where CEOs, I believe, are legally obligated to give the most dire warnings and forecasts to their investors and stakeholders. The reality is the president has always maintained Chinese producers will be absorbing the cost of these tariffs. And that is why China was so quick to hustle to the negotiating table with the United States of America. They need our markets, they need our consumers. And I would again point you to the inflation report that came out last week showing that inflation is declining in large part because energy prices are dropping across the board in this country because of the president's robust energy agenda that he has taken since January 20th. So the president is committed to ensuring that prices remain low for American consumers, and he maintains the position that foreign countries will absorb these tariffs.
What does he mean by "I'll be watching" to Walmart?
He'll be watching, seeing what they're doing. Jennifer.
I love that the spin on the ball that Carolyn Levitt tries to put on this one is while the Walmart CEO only said that tariffs are taxes on consumers when they had to admit the truth. Like Carolyn Levitt said essentially, oh, he only said that because he was legally obligated to say the truth. And so that's the reason that he disagreed with Mr. Trump if he was in a situation in which he could lie. No, he would absolutely say that tariffs are not taxes on consumers, but because he was obligated to, as a fiduciary duty as CEO, yes, he did actually have to, in fact, admit that we're screwing over everyone in America except big billionaires. It's like, what? How is that an argument? How is that an argument? How is this an argument that the bill, the big beautiful bill is not also somehow raising the deficit while making things more expensive for Americans? There's no tax cuts. There's no saving of you money. It's all a lie. And AOC called out that lie right here.
Anyone else wish to be recognized? The gentlelady from New York is recognized for her 3 minutes and an opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 13.7 million people, 13.7 million Americans will be cut off from their health care and made completely uninsurable by the bill that Republicans are presenting today. There's a lot that I've been hearing, and I've been listening to my Republican counterparts here today and what they've been saying about this bill. And the math is not adding up. They're trying to convince people that they are cutting millions of undocumented people from payroll, from Medicare, acting as though this is what's going to save it. Even if you believe everything that Republicans have said today, they are identifying 1 million, their claim, which I dispute, but if you believe them, their claim is that 1 million undocumented people are on Medicaid. So why are they trying to cut 13.7 million Americans off their health care? By the Republicans' own Energy and Commerce tweet this morning, their claim is 7.6 million people are somehow ineligible for health care. So why are they cutting 13.7 million Americans off their health care? They've asked us to read this bill, and we have. This bill bans the people that they kick off of Medicaid from even buying their own insurance from the Affordable Care Act exchange. So once you are kicked off Medicaid, you then can't even buy your own health insurance. It increases costs for people who they deem eligible and who are low income and forces them to pay even more. And if you have a private insurer, don't worry, you're getting screwed over too, because your healthcare premiums are going to skyrocket from the disaster that is happening from this bill. We've done assessments, because if you live in a rural community, you're going to be hurt too. In New York 23, 25% of people are on Medicaid in this area of upstate New York. Westfield Memorial Hospital will be at risk of closure. UPMC Chautauqua is at risk of closure. Schuyler Hospital at risk of closure. California 23, where 46% of people are on Medicaid. Redlands Community Hospital at risk of closure if this passes. Victor Valley Global Medical Center, Loma Linda University Medical Center, all at risk of closure. Colorado 8, 24% of people in this community are on Medicaid, and Platte Valley Medical Center will be at risk of closure if these cuts pass. Who do you believe? The people who are trying to cut this, not, by the way, to cut from quote-unquote undeserving people to give to deserving people, but they are cutting these Medicaid care and these Medicaid dollars to pay for tax cuts for Elon Musk and billionaires. So this money isn't even going towards funding better care for people who are eligible. This money is going, and we are cutting money and healthcare from people and families who are suffering to pay for tax cuts for the rich. It is a crime happening in front of the American public right now.
These people are liars. I think we've come to understand that pretty easily and pretty quickly. So on this show, we're going to call out those lies, especially Carolyn Levitt's. I do have a little extra fun. I consider myself the anti-press secretary sometimes. I always want to call out every single Levitt lie. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, you drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.